And at that time, I really didn't think I was going to take a job. But there was a company down in Austin called Trilogy Software that was, this was now 1999, like the peak of the dot-com boom. And they were putting $100 million into an incubator to go do startups, and they wanted entrepreneurs, and I had some friends that had graduated before me that were down there. And that's, they convinced me to come down and work in their incubator, and that's what brought me to Austin. I actually left that logo off this little slide I'm putting up. But had a great time there. Was able to, over the course of a year, do a startup with them, launch it, get some customers. Sold it a year later, about $20 million to a company called Network Commerce up in Seattle. This was now summer of 2000, which if you remember the dot-com boom and then bust, that was the bust part. And right around, and so 6 months later, after we had sold this company for $20 million in their stock, that company was out of business, and the stock was all worth nothing. So it was kind of a good learning lesson for me. Fortunately, it was only a year of my time, and it was very well worth it because it got me to Austin and it introduced me to a ton of great people. And so at that time, summer 2000, things are really changing. The market, the economy is different. A bunch more of my friends, it's a year later after I graduated, so a bunch of my friends are graduating, and a bunch of them thought they had jobs, but because of the crash, the company that offered them a job isn't in business anymore. So they don't have jobs. And so, interestingly enough, Skylist, my first company, it was still going. I've been running it on the side in school, so I kept running it on the side in Trilogy. And it was actually still growing pretty well, even in light of the economy. And so I brought a bunch more of my friends down from Carnegie Mellon down to Austin, and they helped me to focus and grow Skylist. And we had to really then go through the process of growing that company from having a few small customers to getting our first lighthouse customer, which I think at the time was probably Turner and NASCAR. And when finally we got them and we were legitimate, and we could go to other people and say, look, we work with NASCAR, so you should work with us too. And we were able to grow our business through that. And we continue to do that, continue to grow. And then in 2004, there was a law passed in the US, a national law called Can Spam. And it's not actually to make it so that you can spam, it was supposed to stop spam. But the law basically set some basic regulations in place for email marketing around in the US. And it came as a big surprise to people. They were really expecting it to come. And it created an opportunity for us. And again, like I mentioned before, this was a business that I started that I didn't have some great idea, just suddenly they passed a law and we had to do something about it. And I realized that all my customers were going to have to do something about this, have to deal with it. And at the same time, it clearly was a very different business than the business that we were in. And I knew I'd even need to work with some of my competitors to help to do it. And so that's when we launched Unsub Central, which basically is a clearinghouse for unsubscribe lists, so that if you're a company doing email marketing and you want to make sure that when people unsubscribe from you, that they don't get any more emails from you, Unsub Central helps to make sure that takes place across all the different partners that you might work with. And Unsub Central now is it's kind of like the gold standard for this solution, because with this type of thing, it's actually easier if everybody uses the same thing so that everybody's integrated and works together. And both these companies are still running today and still doing really well. But what I thought was really interesting about them is, in neither case did I have some great idea or go try to build something out through venture capital. I bootstrapped all of them through just one customer at a time and kind of letting it grow organically, and by responding to what was out there, responding to my customers. And another key point about Unsub Central is I leveraged that existing customer base that I had. Right? It's always easier to go sell something else to the customers that you already have, or to sell more to your existing customers than to go try to get new customers. And so you can do that within your existing business, or you can do it with a new business that you start. And I think you'll find a lot of serial entrepreneurs and successful serial entrepreneurs, they often end up starting businesses that let them leverage the relationships and the experience and all the other things they've had in their previous businesses. So then along the way, I was very fortunate to be involved with a number of other great startups. Some of my other entrepreneurial friends in Austin who had seen us launch Unsub Central, we did it very quickly. We launched, so the law was passed in the middle of December, and we came to market in January. So we were able to reuse a bunch of technology from Skylist, and we were able to launch it very quickly. And so other entrepreneurs that were getting started came to me and said, hey, can you help me to get my startup launched very quickly, because I want to get to market quickly. Particularly because they didn't have maybe their own technical team, and I built up quite a team at that time. And so Rackspace.com, which is a big hosting provider, at the time was launching their first cloud computing platform called Moso, which now is part of, it's been rebranded, it's now part of their Rackspace Cloud. And we were able to jump in with them and help them to build the first version of Moso and get that launched. And now that's really a great cloud computing solution out there. Another example was a company called Bizarre Voice. Bizarre Voice is one of the biggest and fastest growing companies in Austin, started by one of my mentors, Brett Bird. And this was an example of him leveraging his existing network to go start a new business. Before this, he'd founded a web analytics company, one of the first ones, called Core Metrics. Has anybody heard of Core Metrics? Sure. Cool. And so Core Metrics was one of the market leaders. It had grown over a period of time. He's got a lot of great stories to tell about that. And eventually he had moved on, was ready to start his next business. Core Metrics primarily dealt with online retailers, and he already had all these relationships. He was on the board of directors of a big trade association called shop.org, and he was able to leverage all those things that he had to start a new business focused on social media and basically, most importantly, ratings and reviews, people commenting on products and things like that, and sell that back out to that same group of customers. And it's a great success story. And again, I think it was a good idea, but really, he was just copying Amazon's business model. Or not the business model, but Amazon had already implemented this great ratings and reviews solution, and where you could, name recommendations, and he was just piggybacking on that and bringing that to all his other customers that he was already working with. And then in 2006, I sold both Skylist and Unsub Central to a company called Daytrain Media. They're a big email advertising company based out of New York City. And for them, these were two pieces of technology that fit into the big picture of what they were trying to become strategically. So part of what they needed to do was send email, and part of what they needed to do was make sure that they were compliant. They wanted to be a provider to many other people. And so this really fit in with their strategy, and it allowed me to exit that business. And that was after about a little more than just about 10 years. And so from the beginning of when I started Skylist to when I sold it in 2006. And so this was not like a rocket ship startup. This was much more of a very organic growth, fight it out every day. That's really where I feel like I earned a lot of my stripes was in doing that through Skylist. And then for 2 years, I was their CTO. Help them to integrate our businesses into theirs and grow their business, help them to develop some new products. But not surprisingly, I really wanted to be back in a startup. I'm really a startup guy. Being in a couple hundred person company, we heard talks before about bureaucracy and about other things. I really like a small team and being able to move really quickly and feeling like everybody's contributing and innovating. And so in the beginning of 2008, I founded my current company, Other Inbox. And kind of a recurring theme here, I took all the experience I had from email marketing and a lot of the customer relationships and other pieces to create something new that I could resell in a lot of the same ways and leverage. Other Inbox is a solution to help all of us, you and me, to manage all the email that we get, because I think most people that I know get too much email these days. And so in one way, I kind of helped to create the problem by helping all these big companies to send all their email. And now I'm creating Other Inbox to help all of us to deal with all the email that all those people send, which was more and more of. And so part of what in Other Inbox was my first venture-backed business. It's the first one where I've raised a few $1 million of venture capital for. And big reason why people believed in me for this and they were willing to let me pursue it was because of the background that I had in email marketing and the expertise that was there. And then before I sold my company, my first company, I started doing some angel investing because I just love working with other startups. I love being involved and hearing about their business plans and finding ways to connect different people and help them grow. And then after I sold my company, I was very fortunate to be able to really step it up and do it much more actively. And so now I believe I'm involved in about 30 different startups, 30 different companies that I've either invested in or helped to grow or work with over that time. And that includes a few of them now from Capital Factory, which I'm going to tell you a little bit more about.